Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Boff and I'm a Conservative member of the London Assembly. The London Assembly is a body of 25 elected members, elected at the same time as the Mayor for London, and our job is to hold the Mayor to account and to raise issues of interest to Londoners. I, back in March of 2012, published a report called Silence on Violence, and that was as a result of my concerns in the way that the police were adopting a completely dehumanising stance in their policing of sex work in London. And that is my remit. My locus is London. I can't speak for outside London, so everything I say is about that. That report, to save you time, that report, Silence on Violence, can be accessed at glaconservatives.com/reports and click on Silence and Violence. Now, the reason I am delighted to be here is because we are talking about evidence. And unfortunately, the policing of sex work up to date has been completely devoid of evidence-based policing, in my opinion. We have that report, may I say, I am indebted to Tamara Barnett, who was the researcher on that report, and effectively she wrote it, and I get the kudos, and I love that relationship. I am also indebted to many of the people who are here today and have given evidence, and actually I can cut a great chunks of my speech because Nick Mai, for instance, is here, and he has already given evidence about the largely fictional percentages of people who are assumed to be trafficked in brothels and on the street, and he says it in a much more engaging accent than mine. But what I am most concerned with, he said, editing as he's going along, is that it is the lack of evidence. And it was as a result of a police action on trying to prevent human trafficking in advance of the Olympics. The police spent had an additional £500,000 allocated to them in order to catch victims of trafficking. Now, if they bothered to look at any evidence, they would realise that no great sporting event results in any increase in trafficking whatsoever. It's just, as we heard, given evidence by one police officer in the London borough of Newham, where they closed 80 brothels, or 80 massage parlours. They closed 80 brothels, and when we asked them what the motivation was behind closing that, one of the officers said, well, we read about it in the Daily Mail, so we thought we might as well do it. That is not evidence-based policing, and it is policing on the basis of prejudice, and it is policing, the kind of policing that can only increase the amount of harm that sex workers are likely to be subject to. A profession, may I say, and an undertaking that is already 18 times, female sex workers especially, are 18 times more likely to be murdered than in other professions. So, it was as a result of not finding many trafficked people in sex work, and that's not to say that there are not people who are trafficked into sex work. There absolutely are, but we've got to get the proportions right. It was as a result of that I went on to write another report, also accessible by, as I said earlier, called Shadow City. And Shadow City, the conclusion of that, and the evidence is already there, and I'm abbreviating as we go along, the conclusion of that report is that if you want to catch trafficked people, effectively modern-day slaves, you would get a bigger haul from £500,000 if you shut down all the nail bars, raided Indian restaurants, or indeed were even to enforce minimum wage regulations in the hospitality industry. You were more likely to get victims of trafficking by doing that than you are by going round and taking away livelihood from some people who desperately want to have a livelihood. For that reason, and I'm going to draw it to end, I might even get the star if I'm lucky. For that reason, I do not believe, and I find it, after the work that we've done, and in Silence on Violence, we put the opposite point of view as well. We don't just come in with opinions, we look at the evidence, we've looked at the evidence. And I am firmly of the view, may I say, that anybody who reads the evidence and is committed to evidence-based policy making can have any other view than the best way to reduce harm to sex workers is the decriminalisation of sex work. It is time the government treated this as a priority. There is a common sense majority that agrees with that view, and it is only a very small number of people, for whatever reason, who are committed to holding back that piece of legislation. So I very much hope that today's evidence puts pressure on the government and on all parties that we need to change the law soon in order to protect sex workers. Thank you very much.